Hi, my name's Joanne, and what I want to talk to you about are some of the components that make up the big picture that you're going to have to worry about as you work on the MSAP program. So the first point I want to talk about is the pace and the volume. We know that medical school courses in general have a pace that's not like anything you've ever experienced before, and the volume of material is also very intense. We know that for 4 weeks, you're going to have about 10 hours of lecture per week, and that's your class time. You're going to be exposed and have to watch those videos. And so the components that we want you to think about is some kind of preview. You want to get the most out of the video that you can, and so one form of previewing would be to flip through the lecture notes ahead of time, to just kind of pre-engage your mind to know what's coming up and what you should be paying attention to. The second part then is class, watching these videos, and some of the videos you're going to have are broken into smaller pieces and other are going to be up to 50 minutes long. So you kind of have to get used to exposing yourself and paying attention and learning in real time. That's an important component of this. After class, we want you to review the material. And then after that, hopefully do some practice questions. And we actually have some resources to help you with that will be explained in greater detail in other ways. And so time-wise, if we look at this, preview is kind of 10 to 15 minutes. Some people call it like the trailer to a movie, that it's short, condensed version of what you're going to see. You don't want to take as much time in your preview as your class is going to take. And then your first review is about 90 minutes. Pretty consistently here at SGU for just about any course. Most students anecdotally talk about taking 90 minutes for their first review. And then practice questions, if we did another 15 minutes, means that for every kind of 1 hour of class, we've got 2 hours of just getting through the lecture material for the first time. Another important component is fitting the task to the time you have. And this is really important skill to get, and one that most students struggle with because none of us like leaving things behind. But the thing that you can't do here at medical school is stretch time. And you're going to find so many things demanding your time and your attention that this is a really hard thing to do. So an example would be, I'm going to study all 3 subjects one evening. And so maybe I've set myself up that for 45 minutes I'm going to study anatomy, I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to study physio, and take another break, and then I'm going to work on some biochem. But the problem is anatomy takes longer than I planned for, and it kind of leaks into the physio piece. So that means I take a quick break, and then this physio leaks into biochem, so that biochem doesn't even happen, and now I'm behind. And the worst thing you can be is behind, because there's no way to catch up. Even more specific to the MSAP program is you only have 4 weeks of class content, and then you're studying for your final exam. So you can't afford to get behind. And what this does is it creates a lot of agitation in people. Nobody likes leaving stuff behind, and so we start carving back things like sleep or social time or exercise, and our life becomes very unbalanced. And so what you have to do to yourself is say, I have to cut this off at 45 minutes and record where I am. Maybe there's 2 more pages of this lecture and those notes that I have to study, and keep a record of it and come back to it later if you have the opportunity, but you really have to stay on track. And so the biggest thing we talk about is self-soothing behavior. And you think about your little kid when you take them to the store, and if they want something and you say no and they pick up a fuss, and so you give them the sucker, you've created a monster. And you want to really avoid that. And this is really hard to do, but you want to start practicing it now, because the better you get at it, the better you'll be here at SGU when you're successful in this program. So the third point that I want to make is some form of self-testing. All too often students pay too much attention and are too worried about getting the information into their head. That can be by memorizing, rewriting notes, any other way that you're studying, you're putting the information in. And then when the test happens, you can see it up on the page, the purple star, but you can't get it out in the way to answer the question on the test because you haven't practiced getting the information out to the level of detail that you're going to be tested. And so we really encourage you to do a couple different activities. One of them is whiteboarding. It's kind of like what I'm doing right now, is that we're trying to regenerate the information I have without looking at my notes on something like a whiteboard where I can talk out loud and where I can just quickly sketch what I'm doing. Another form is doing multiple choice practice questions. You're going to have a couple within every lecture or at the end of every lecture to start you off. And if you want to know more about that, we can offer you different resources to help you find more multiple choice questions. You also can do practice questions in general, and we're going to show you different resources that are available in other video clips. And the other way to kind of self-test is creating questions. Because I can't create a question if I don't understand the material. And this doesn't mean creating all the answer choices. It might just be a basic short answer question about what's the point of the TCA cycle. And if I can't answer that, then I don't know the information. And the self-testing is something that's really important that I do on a fairly regular basis. We really encourage people to try and do multiple choice questions every day, even if it's just one or two. One thing that you're going to find that happens a lot is you're going to be tested. So you want to become a good test taker, and the way to do that is to practice a lot. So just to quickly summarize, you have to be really careful and be very aware of the pace and the volume, making sure you're using your time really well. That leads to the second point of fitting the task to the time and not letting yourself get away with behavior that's going to come back to put you in a situation where you're behind a lot. And the other thing is that you've got to do some form of self-testing on a regular basis to know what you know and what you don't know, to make sure that your learning is really effective and efficient.